Hi, this is Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden, speaking a little bit about my potted life history. Well, I was born in 52 Manton Crescent, which is at a good start, and that was in Worksop in Nottinghamshire, in a small mining village where my grandfather was a miner. Anyway, I moved on from there. I wanted to be an astronaut. Unfortunately, I wasn't any good at maths or physics and couldn't guarantee where it would actually land, so I thought at the age of 12 I decided to design whaling vessels and designed a very nice factory ship on a piece of wallpaper. Unfortunately, the Department of Trade and Industry rejected it out of hand. I tried my hand at the interplanetary spacecraft. That didn't work very well either, so I went to school. Well, anyway, I got thrown out of school for whittling in the headmaster's beans, but that's another story. On the way, I learned how to fence, so then I stopped doing that when I was 19 and took up drinking, wine, women and song, and I started singing when I was 17. However, there was a slight problem because I had to take a university degree in history, but I decided not to be a history teacher and instead became a musician. That was after I'd been in the army for 2 years. First, after having been in the Army Cadets, I led a very full life up to this stage. After that, I just devoted myself solely to the idea of raising families around the world and cooking. The only thing I could cook, of course, was a piece of toast, but that's another story as well. Anyway, finally I ended up in a group called Samson, which was stunningly unsuccessful around the world, mainly because it was managed by a bunch of geeks and also didn't have a very good record company. Anyway, as a result of my stunning unsuccess in Samson, even though their material was extremely good and is now available on Capitol Records called Shockhead Tactics or something like that, then I got the job with Iron Maiden, which was very nice because I was broke at the time. Anyway, Steve Harris came along and asked me, did I want to join Iron Maiden? I said yes. So then I did Iron Maiden and I did Number of the Beast and Piece of Man and Power Slave, and the rest is history, except that in the meantime I took up fencing, which is what I do now all the time when I'm not singing with Iron Maiden. I usually do it 6 days a week and I'm stunningly unsuccessful at it, but I'm trying to get better. Have I had 2 minutes yet? Hi, Bruce back on the loose again. I'm talking now about a song on the new Iron Maiden album, which is called Stranger in a Strange Land. And it was written by Adrian Smith. As a matter of fact, I heard it when it was being written all the time because my room happened to be opposite Adrian's and he insisted on playing the particular riff which starts the song at about 4 in the morning when he was demoing it. He had a small 8-track studio in his bedroom, which was not easy. So I became particularly fond of this particular song. I also like the lyrics a great deal because I think they're very ambiguous lyrics. You can put the stranger in a strange land anywhere you like. He can be a stranger from another planet, he can be a stranger out in the cold somewhere, he can be a stranger to himself. And in fact, the song is about this guy that they dug out of the ice at the turn of the century, who was left buried there by one of Scott's expeditions to the pole. And although you can see that in the lyrics, what I like about them is that they work on another level as well. So they work on the level of the story, they work on the level of being nice lyrics, and they work on a deeper level too, if you want to see it that way. And certainly when I was singing it, I tried to get that in there, especially in the verses. I also like the song particularly because there's a lot of blues in the notes and in the way that it's sung and the way it's delivered. And despite the fact that a lot of the stuff Iron Maiden does these days will end up sounding like kind of fledgling operatic, I don't know what's. I did used to be able to sing a mean blues in my youth. And so it's nice to get back to it now and again and wail away. So very fond of this song. In fact, it's my favourite song on the album. Possibly a contender for my favourite Iron Maiden song of all time.
Adrian Smith.
From Iron Maiden.
From Iron Maiden.
Adrian, after 11.5 months on the road, which was the last time the band did a tour, what did you do when you finally got time off to yourself after that much time on the road?
I took off to Canada. I went fishing for about a month.
Because you're a keen fisherman, aren't you?
Yeah, very keen. So I thought that was the best way to just, after all that time spent on the bus, to get out in the sort of open space.
Whereabouts in Canada did you go?
I went to, first of all, I went to Alberta, and then to British Columbia.
You do fishing while you're on the road, though, as well, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah, we keep, actually me and Dave go fishing. We keep the gear under the bus, worms and all that sort of stuff, and rods. So if we get an hour before the gig, we usually go fishing, or if we get a day off.
You find it relaxing?
Well, it's a bit hard to relax if you go fishing before a gig, because sometimes, the water's right next to the gig and you can see all the kids coming in and that, and they see you there fishing and they think, who's that? They come up and ask you for an autograph or whatever. It was a bit weird.
So all that time you actually had away from the band, that was it really, just relaxation and stuff?
Well, we did, me and Nicko got another group together. Just like, we did a couple of gigs.
This was just a part-time group, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just friends and friends we played with, sort of bands we started off in, and that. We just sort of did a couple of gigs and rehearsed for about a month.
And you went under different titles as well, didn't you, for these 2 gigs?
Yeah, it was Entire Population of Acne. That was the name of the band.
That was the marquee gig.
Yeah, and we also did a gig in. We did a warm up as well. Because like the marquee was quite important. Actually, Nicko got the gig. We weren't intending to play any gigs. It was just like a jam, and all of a sudden Nicko said he's got us a gig, so it started to get a bit serious.
That must have been a bit strange. I mean, surely, you know, with most everybody else saying I never want to see a guitar again, at least for 6 weeks.
Yeah, but that was after about 3 months of doing nothing. So we started to get a bit. Nicko especially, because he can't, you know. It's alright if you're a guitar player, you can just sit down and play, but Nicko's got to make a vast amount of noise, and so it's a bit difficult. Isn't it?
Here's a hypothetical question for you. If you weren't Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden, what would Adrian Smith be doing in another life?
I don't know, probably be. I used to be a painter and decorator, so.
Before the band?
Yeah, maybe I'll still be doing that. I don't know.
Painting and decorating?
Yeah, that's my thing.
Adrian, tell me about this one of the tracks you've written on the album, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yeah, well, we got the music together first, and the music was kind of. It seemed to need lyrics that were about some kind of landscape, either a desert or a nice, you know, polar sort of. It was that kind of moody kind of riff. So I just remember the story I saw in the paper about a guy went on an expedition about 100 years ago, and the ship went down in the Antarctic. I think it was the North Pole, and they found this guy's body 100 years later, and it was perfectly preserved in the ice. And it was so shocking, this picture of this guy. It stuck in my mind, and I thought that would be an ideal story, written from the point of view of what it would be like to die, leave no trace, you know, no sort of ceremony, you know. But they did find this guy's body, and I think they gave him an MBE, you know, posthumous. Yeah. So I figured that was kind of an interesting story.
Is this the first time you've written lyrics for an Iron Maiden album?
Yeah. I've written lyrics before, but not for Iron Maiden.
One of the other tracks you've written on the album is Wasted Years.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, that's a single. I'm quite pleased about that. Just the first single. Originally, I wasn't going to play it to the band. I just had it on a little tape recorder, and it sounded a bit poppy to me. And Steve heard it and said, I like that. So when we did it, it didn't turn out like that at all. It was much heavier, and it suited the band, so we did it. Yeah, and it's a single. Yeah.
Is there a story behind the lyrics?
Not really. It's about. I suppose it's about a guy who's travelled his whole life. He's never settled down anywhere. I suppose you could relate it a little bit to us and what we do, you know.
Sort of semi-autobiographical?
Semi, yeah. Sort of just being away from home for years, you know. Sort of that kind of thing.
All right.
Hi. My name's Nicko McBrain. I'm the drummer from Iron Maiden.
Nicko, what did you do with all that time off that you had after you finished the last tour?
Well, straight after we finished the tour, I went back to London and spent some time with my family, and did a fair bit of flying.
Because of course you're a pilot now.
Yeah.
What licence do you have?
I got a twin engine rating now. So, but that came after after Christmas this year, when we started work and we finished the album. I got my multi-rating in the States, but the 5 months off I just basically spent in London.
Doing what?
Hanging around, going down to pubs like yourself, sitting outside in the sunshine. No.
Didn't you get a bit bored after?
Yeah, I went to Jersey a couple of times and did a little bit of flying there, and then towards the end of October I got a little band together with Adrian, and that filled in a fair bit of time. So and that went over about 5 or 6 weeks, and we did 2 shows, one in London and one in Gravesend, which was really fantastic. And we called ourselves the entire population of Hackney, which was a classic name, don't you think? So we had about 4 weeks rehearsals for that, so that took up a month or two of time, and then of course Christmas came along, and then it was lots of festivities over Christmas, a few parties and a few babies' heads to wet, etc. And so that really took most of the time. It was more of a relaxation, really, a little bit of flying, not an awful lot, but the flying came later.
How long have you been flying? When did you first start doing that?
Well, I first started when I joined the band, 3.5 years ago. So I took my very first lesson in Jersey when we were rehearsing the Peace of Mind album songs. So from there it sort of has taken off, so to speak.
So you've got no fear of flying, Nicko? You don't mind jumping in planes every day?
Actually I want to jump out of them now as well. You never know when you need to. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, hi, this is Nicko McBrain. I'm the drummer from Iron Maiden.
Nicko, could you tell me about one of your favourite tracks on the album?
Yeah, one of my favourite tracks at the present moment, because it usually does change over the time, but right now is Heaven Can Wait, which to me is, it holds something out of the rest of the tracks. When we came to rehearse the album in Jersey, like we have done in the last couple of albums, that track kind of took form, and we worked and we pushed it around quite a bit, you know, getting the various bits and pieces together in the song, and it kind of just really swung along more, and it was, every time we came to routine it, I was really excited to play the song. I'm not saying on the other, you know, none of the others as well, they're all great songs, but Heaven Can Wait, just for me, within the field, I think it's more of a drummer's song for me anyway, you know. And it's a great lyric on it. I think it's brilliant, you know. It's not sure whether the guy's having a dream or whether it's real, whether he's going to heaven or he's going to hell or he's in limbo state, you know. When you kids read the lyrics and hear the song, you'll see what I mean. It's another good classic, you know. And it's got a great feel to it. I really enjoy it. And maybe next to that is Deja Vu. That's a real cracker of a song as well, because I think that's a song that can really relate to everybody, because I'm sure everybody who realises it after they're reminded of Deja Vu has experienced it in some way or another. And the lyrics are brilliant on that too, you know. It's a classic, I feel like I've been here before, you know. It's, you're around, you know. But yeah, those Heaven Can Wait, I think, is really my top favourite at the moment. And but then you ask me tomorrow and it'll probably be Alexander the Great or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Hello there, I'm Dave Murray and I play guitar with Iron Maiden.
Dave, after the best part of a year solidly on the road, you finally had a bit of a break, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did you spend your break? What was the first thing you did?
Well, what I done, I went back to England with my wife, because I got married like a few months earlier, and we like rented a house out in the countryside and just generally relaxed, you know. It was right next to a river, so we like rented like a boat, and we'd go cruising up and down the Thames, like doing some fishing and stopping off like at different pubs and stuff on the way, you know. Just generally like sightseeing and that sort of thing, you know.
Getting used to home life again.
Yeah, right, because after being, you know, like touring that, it's nice to actually get away from it for a while, just to sort of recharge the batteries and generally, you know, just sort of have a bit of, you know, more fun, really, you know.
How did you feel at that time? Did you feel like you didn't want to see your guitar again for ages, or?
No, actually, I still had guitar, always like got guitar lying around anyway, so I sort of sit down and put some stuff on tape, you know, and so it was always lying around, but I never actually played in, you know, got together with anybody. It's just for my own amusement, you know, really.
And how did you enjoy the recording of the album?
It was brilliant, because we started in the Bahamas, and we'd done like the guitars and that in Holland. So it was a whole new experience doing that, because a different environment, and just it was a real relaxing atmosphere too. It was really enjoyable.
Was it good to get back to working again after such a break?
Yeah, it was actually, because I mean, you know, say if you like music and you know, and you play it, it's always there. It's like a, you know, an addiction, addicted to music. So actually being able to play again with, especially with the rest of the guys, you know, because we get on so well and that, it feels real good, you know. So here we are again, you know.
Could you imagine what you'd probably do if you hadn't been a musician with Iron Maiden?
Probably been a farmer. Yeah, country life. Oh, cut. Hello there, I'm Dave Moe and I play guitar with Iron Maiden.
Dave, one of the tracks on the album, I think probably the longest track, is Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Can you tell me something about that track?
Well, it's about, well, Alexander, of course, but well, I particularly like it really because of like the lyrics and stuff, because it's like about the history.
It's another Steve Harris special, isn't it?
Yeah, it most certainly is actually, yeah. And also because, I mean, it's about 8 minutes long and I like them, sort of long pieces like that. And especially like the intro, it's got a real, the mood of it, it real sort of conjures up the idea of, you can imagine the battles and all that, and with the lyrics all tie in and it gives you a real, bit of history there,
Yeah. And there's actually a track on the album which you co-wrote with Steve.
Oh, right, Deja Vu, yeah. That come together really well. In fact, that come together in the Bahamas, really, I sort of gave Steve a tape with some ideas on, and we worked on from that, But really, I have that feeling of Vujardé where you've never been there before. That's it. That's all, could be where it's at.
Also, of course, you've got this reputation for coming up with one song every 3 years. You've actually stuck to it, haven't you?
Yeah, well,
Totally true.
I've got to, yeah. So the next one's due in 1989, I think.
Start working
Before
on it.
that, yeah, it takes that long.
Hello, I'm Steve Harris from Iron Maiden.
Steve, after spending a good year on the road, you finally allowed yourselves a bit of a holiday, the first in your whole career, I think. How did you spend that time?
Just lazing about, feeding the dog, doing as little as possible really. All the sort of normal things that you do when you're home, I suppose. We spent so long on the road, like 5-6 years on and off, like touring and recording, that we were just so knackered that we thought, right, this is it, we've got to have some time off. Time to play a bit of football, spend a bit of time with the family and all that sort of thing. Have a few beers down the pub.
You've got your own pub now, of course, haven't you?
Well, this is one of the reasons I had it done, was because I thought, well, when I'm home, I want to spend time at home, and I don't want to go out too much really, because I don't get much time at home. So I thought, bring all the people around to my gaff instead.
You've built a bar in the house.
Yeah, well, my mate Vic built a bar, and it is a complete like pub inside an house. It's unreal, So, well, it's good really, because if I get pissed up, I can just sort of fall out of my door and go upstairs,
What drinks do you serve in this bar?
It's got Ruddles County on draft and ESP or Fuller's, whatever's available at the time, on draft. John Smith's.
But no
stuff
sake
like
yet?
No sake yet, no, it's too strong. Can't handle it.
Is that 2 minutes? Didn't you also, for a time, get interested in photography?
Yeah, I'm not very good at it. Actually, I'm probably better at actually processing the stuff than taking the photos. I've got a sort of pretty automatic camera, so it's pretty foolproof, that's why I bought it. But I actually got into processing and doing all my own negs and, prints and everything. It was really good, I really enjoyed it. Got my own dark room and all that. Spends, it sort of takes so much time. It's really laborious, but I enjoy it, My wife's not only a rock and roll widow now, she's a darkroom widow as well. I'm always in there when I'm home, Hello, this is Steve again.
Steve, the almost title track of the album, Caught Somewhere in Time, is a song you wrote.
Yeah.
Can you tell me something about it?
Yeah, it was sort of inspired when I watched a film called Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell, H.G. Wells. He played a part of H.G. Wells where he goes back, or actually goes forward in time. Just the idea of time travel and all that. And I just wondered what it'd be like if someone just came up and said to you, I can take you in time back or forwards. Would you come with me? And would you go? What would you do? It's something that I think most people have all, thought about at some time or another. And I thought, well, would you bottle it or what? Would you actually go? Just that sort of idea. So I thought it was really interesting to sort of think, well, when it boils down to it, and then it comes to the nitty-gritty, would you actually take the chance and go or not?
Do you think you would? Would you time
I don't
travel?
know. I really don't know. It's something that I think, I'd love to sort of maybe try it, but only if I knew I could come back. But that's the point, isn't it? You don't know, do you, I suppose?
Yeah. And one of the other tracks on the album, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, that was actually a film title
Yeah.
as well, wasn't it?
That's about determination and thinking you're going to sort of go out there and run the race and you're going to win and all that. And if anyone's watched the film, it's at the end of the day, the bloke sort of gets to, I don't know, within 100 yards or something of the finishing line. And because it's all the authorities, you know, willing him on to win and all this, he just thinks, bollocks, that's it, I ain't doing it. And he just stops, and he was miles in front. And he just loses. And it was just about that sort of thing of just pushing yourself on and determination and wanting to win. And then thinking, well, you know, getting a change of attitude right at the last minute. Just like all, you know,
Has
like
that
the
ever happened
authority.
to you?
No, I'm not a long distance runner. I'm not bad on the 100 yards, but long distance, no way.
What about 11.5-month tours?
Not again. I must be honest. 8 months is the next one, and that's about right.